Welcome to Figure Feedback. My name is Jeremy, and today I want to show you another printer that has joined the 4 tool head 3D printer war of 2026. And this time it is from WonderMaker, and this is the WonderMaker ZR Ultra S. Now, if you haven't heard of WonderMaker before, that's okay, because they're still a relatively new company as far as tech companies go, and they only released one other product before the 4 tool head models that they have now. And that was the WonderMaker ZR, which I fortunately had the opportunity to review some time ago. Now, that printer was met with a mixed reaction. I had a really good experience with it, but I saw other people who had an absolutely horrible experience with it. So we're going to see if the ZR Ultra series can help turn things around for WonderMaker and just make them more of a household name in this niche. Now, all of WonderMaker's printers are the result of a crowdfunding campaign through Kickstarter. Both the original WonderMaker ZR and the Ultra and the Ultra S were made possible because of that. So before I really dive into this, I just want to let you know, for the people who are watching this that actually backed this product, I know that you're still waiting on them and that the communication with WonderMaker in regards to when you're going to be getting those has not been the best. And I also understand that some people may be watching this and seeing how someone like me, a YouTuber who did not help crowdfund it, has the printer that they have been waiting for so long. The irony is not lost on me, and I am fully aware of the privilege that I have in order to do things like this. But if anything, maybe this could calm a little bit of the concerns that maybe this is vaporware. Is very much a real product. So the WonderMaker ZR Ultra S is the enclosed version of their 4 tool head printers. Think of it as being like the FlashForge Creator 5 Pro version. And then they also have one that is not enclosed, and that is just called the WonderMaker ZR Ultra. Now, what makes these two printers stand out from the competition, the main thing is that they are bigger. They have a build volume of 300 by 270 by 290 millimeters. All right, so that effectively makes it larger than anything that FlashForge is offering right now, as well as Snapmaker with the U1. The Ultra S also has a heated chamber that can go up to 60 degrees Celsius to help with your engineering materials. And perhaps best of all, especially for the tinkerers out there, this printer is a lot more open than, say, the FlashForge Creator 5 series. This also runs Clipper, but as far as I can see, you're not restricted from it. So you can just type in the IP address of this printer into your web browser, and it is going to open up the fluid interface. You'll have all those options that you're used to. You'll be able to mess around with stuff as much as you want. You can use Orca Slicer with this and have access to the device tab, or you can use WonderMaker's own slicer, which is once again a skin of Orca Slicer that they call WonderMaker Orca. So you have the option to choose between those. This also has a camera that appears to be giving off about 13 frames per second that you can use to monitor your prints. It's got an auxiliary fan on the side to help bring in more airflow, and it also has a HEPA 13 air filter on the inside of it. So when you take this out of the box, it is mostly assembled. You don't have to do anything too crazy, but basically the whole process is you take out all of the packaging material. There's quite a few boxes on the inside of the printer, and you remove the bed screws like you always do. And then presently I saw that the screen is already attached. You don't have to do anything with it. It is not only tiltable, but it's also on a hinge so that you can sort of bring it out and bring it in at the same time. It's not super flexible, but it's different than most other screens that I've seen on a 3D printer. And then from there, you really just have to attach the modules that make the color changing mechanism works. There's a couple of different devices that you have to mount on the side of the printer, which is going to be the left side if you're standing behind it. And once you do that, just with a couple of screws, you can then begin to put in the spool holders. The most difficult time I had setting up this printer had to do with the spool holders because the way that they have this set up is that you actually have to go inside of the printer and you have to connect a screw through the side of the printer so that it can get to the spool holder on the other side. And it was just sort of a little bit fiddly to do that. And it's the same thing when you have to remove the bed screws from the printer. Screws in the front, there's three of them. The one on the left and the right aren't too bad to get to, but then there's one in the back that you can't really see unless you're hovering over the printer. So you kind of got to get in there literally so that you can see it, so you can start to turn that Allen key to get that screw out. But with the spool holders, they remind me of the Snapmaker to U1's spool holders. They look very similar, but instead of just forcing it into the side of the printer, you have to use a screw to attach them. And it's really just kind of fiddly because you have to hold the spool holder as well as move that screw in. And you have to get it right because if you don't, the screw can tighten up before it's supposed to. And then the spool holder will just be really, really wobbly. You have to get it right so that when you are done tightening that screw, there is no play in that spool holder. It seems like it's simple, but this is actually something that took me quite a while to do for all four spool holders because sometimes the fit just wasn't right. And one of them did just sort of back off a little bit. So I did have to go back in and retighten it. But once it is in there and it's tightened, I mean, it's fine. But it was just more than I was expecting to do when it comes to just putting on a spool holder. But when it comes to the actual filament changing module that they have on there, similar to FlashForge, most of it is assembled, but it's not as complete as what you would get in a FlashForge Creator 5. So the tool changers, they simply go into the docks and they're held in place magnetically, so that's great. But you still had to connect the filament tube to each tool head, and you still had to take the wire that's attached to the tool head, and you did have to route it over to the mechanism that's on the left side so that you can plug all of that in and then use some cable ties in order to just take all of those tubes and make them as neat as you possibly can. It's not a difficult process, but it's just something that you have to do. You just have to do a little bit more, but you don't have to do anything like you would with the Snapmaker U1 when it comes to the dock in the back. The dock is just fine the way that it is, and all you do is just put the tool heads on there and then you'll be good to go. So from there, you just got the lid that you have to assemble. And that lid is also really fiddly. It's kind of flimsy. It doesn't require any hardware to put together. It just sort of slides into each other. So you have to connect the panels for the front and the back and the sides, and then you put the top panel on top. Seems simple enough, but because it's just kind of flimsy, sometimes when you will put them together, they can still sort of come apart, or the lid will go into one section okay, but when you get one section good, then the other section pops out. So you got to put that section down and then another section pops out. I don't know if I did it correctly or not, but at the end of the day, there is a gap along the top of the lid where the top goes on. And I have no idea how to make it flush or even if it can be flush. And that made me wonder if it's supposed to be that way. Is that a concern about heat escaping when you use the heated chamber? Possibly. But at the same time, those are not the only gaps, because even if everything was flush as far as the lid is concerned, there's still a really big opening on the front of the lid that's supposed to go over the screen. There's still gaps on the side where it goes over the filament module. There's still little holes all around where the filament module is that lets air out. So I haven't tried this yet with high temperature materials, so I'm wondering if those gaps are going to hinder things a bit, but we'll see in time. Like I said, I've had this for less than 24 hours. I'm just giving you my first impressions of it. So with this, WonderMaker provided 4 little mini spools of filament. And when you want to load the filament, it is not an automatic process. You have to manually feed it all the way to the tool head. And once you get it all the way down to the tool head knows that it's there. It's going to detect it. And there's lights on the back of the tool head. The light will be blue when it senses the filament and you're good to go. And it's going to be red if it hasn't detected the filament, so you'll need to continue to push it until it gets there. And from there, you can choose to load the filament that you can just use the menu in order to do that. But just like the Creator 5, there is no place for that purged filament to go. It just purges directly to the floor of the printer. Oh boy, we're doing this again. And when I saw that it was purging, you'll see this big old fan to the left of it. And at first I was thinking, please don't tell me that that's where the chamber heater is. Don't tell me that we're doing this again. But that's the auxiliary fan, and the chamber heater is in the very back. So we need to see what's going to happen with that. Hopefully nothing gets sucked into the fan like we saw with the Creator 5, but there's no place for that filament to go when it purges. Now, from what I've seen, it doesn't purge at any point other than when you load the filament and you tell it that you want to load the filament. When you do a print, it does not purge, unlike the Creator 5. It doesn't just purge whenever it wants. It only purges when you tell it to purge. So when you start a print, the first thing that it does is starts working on a prime tower. So it doesn't just start printing your model, it does a prime tower first. So maybe that gets rid of the purge. I don't know, but that's how it is so far. So the first thing I tried to print was this bookmark that came on the printer, but for some reason the filament wasn't being extruded from the first tool head when I started it. And I couldn't back out of the print because it was part of the setup process. It went through the bed leveling and the vibration compensation and, just all that typical stuff. And it wanted me to do a print once all that was done. But since I couldn't get the print done and I couldn't unload the filament at that point, I just turned the printer off and I turned it back on. And it wanted me to go through the calibration process again, but I skipped all of that because I figured I already did that. I don't have to do it again. And then I started printing the bookmark. The bookmark came out just fine. Then I decided to print a multicolor Benchy, but the Benchy did not turn out so well. This is not a very good looking Benchy. But I didn't want to just straight up blame the printer and say this is a bad printer. I thought that maybe the calibrations that I did before didn't save because I didn't go through the whole process. So I decided to just do all the calibrations over again, and I double checked to make sure there was no additional firmware that needed to be downloaded. And I also checked the filament profiles for the WonderMaker ZR Ultra in WonderMaker Orga, and I just lowered the temperature of the filament. It was running at 230 degrees for PLA. So I just lowered that to 220, just made sure everything was fine from that perspective. And I ran the same Benchy again. And this time the Benchy came out looking better than the first one, but still not pristine. It's still not a perfect Benchy. You can see it looks like there's maybe some cooling mishaps that need to be dealt with because the hole is not as smooth as it should be. I made sure the auxiliary fan was on, so even though it looks better than it did before, it's still not the type of Benchy that I would be happy with. So I still need to try to, figure out exactly what's going on there. And this is by no means a review of this printer. There's still a lot more to be done, different filaments that I have to use, and, just seeing if that happened to be a fluke with the second Benchy. I don't know, but I definitely want to share with you my first experiences with the WonderMaker ZR Ultra. And hopefully I can have an experience that is just as good, if not better, than the original WonderMaker ZR. So stay tuned to this space if you are curious about this printer. Oh, and if you're wondering about the price on this printer, I don't really know right now because it's not really for sale on their website. People who backed it on Kickstarter got it for a lower price than they're probably going to sell it for to the general public. So I am not sure yet. So I don't want to throw out a number, but if I find that out, when this video gets posted, before it gets posted or whatever, I'll be sure to leave it in the description. So thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon.